Okay, so in our previous lesson, we learned about slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Today we're going to be looking at what we call linear combinations, and we put those in the form ax plus by equals c. But before we look specifically at that, let's talk about these first two terms here, continuous and discrete. A continuous function is a function whose domain and range is the set of all real numbers. In other words, with a continuous function, it's okay to use decimals. Okay, it's okay to use decimals in a continuous function. A discrete function is a function where if we were to graph it, it would just be a set of unconnected points. So another way to look at that, we've talked about discrete before, but discrete, again, just means that it's a situation where it's not okay to use decimals. Continuous, it's okay to use decimals because it's nonstop. Discrete, it's separate points, so it's not okay to use decimals. So in these next couple of examples, what we're going to do is we're going to come up with our own story problem, and we're going to define that story problem as being discrete or continuous, and then we're going to explain what a point represents. So let's look at this one. It says give two different situations, we're only going to give one, that can be modeled by the linear combination equation 6x plus 3y equals 30. So notice how they referred to this as a linear combination equation. Okay, that's important to recognize that. And then for a situation, we're going to state whether it's discrete or continuous and explain what the point 3, 4 represents. Now there's a lot of possibilities that we could come up with, so I'm just going to come up with one here. We'll say Sally made $6 for each infant that she babysat and $3 for each toddler for a total of $30. So in this situation, if we wanted to figure out what the coordinate 3, 4 represents, we could say that it represents that she babysat 3 infants and 4 toddlers, and like we said, she made a total of $30. And this situation would be discrete because it would not make sense to use a decimal amount of children. You wouldn't have 3.5 infants or 4.8 toddlers or 2.6 toddlers. You just wouldn't do that. So they're all going to be just integers, positive integers. So our situation here would be discrete. So why don't you see if you can come up with your own example for the next situation, 4x plus 8y equals 48. And again, name it discrete or continuous and explain what the point 25 represents. Now obviously I'm going to come up with something different, but at least why don't you pause the video, think about it, see what you can come up with on your own. Okay, so you should have had a chance to think about it. But if not, you really want to make sure that you try to think of how you can come up with your own story problems. You'll be asked to do that in your assignment. But here's one possible story problem. Sam sold 4 DVDs for X dollars each and 8 Blu-ray DVDs for Y dollars each for a total of $48. Okay, so that would be a situation that can be that this 4x plus 8y equals 48 can model. As far as what the coordinate 25 represents, or whether it's discrete or continuous, well, first off, X and Y represents dollar amounts, and it's okay to use decimal dollar amounts. So this would be a situation that would be continuous. And as far as the coordinate 25, that represents that he sold the DVDs for $2 each, and he sold the Blu-rays for $5 each. So this, again, would be a situation that's continuous. Now, again, ax plus by equals c, that's referred to as a linear combination. And it's also called the standard form of a line, or standard form of an equation. Now the key here is, like we said, a and b cannot both be equal to 0. So that equation ax plus by equals c, or 6x plus 3y equals 30. In this particular situation, the a would be your 6, the value for b would be 3, your value for c would be 30. Let's look at some story problems where we need to come up with the standard form now. It says, suppose a chemist wants to mix X liters, so a certain amount of a 2.5 moles per liter solution, with Y liters of a 7.25 moles per liter solution to obtain a mixture with 10 moles of acid. So you don't have to know chemistry to be able to do this, but this is where this is a situation that applies to chemistry. So what we have is we have one container that has 2.5 moles per liter of solution of acid, and another container that its amount of acid is 7.25 moles per liter, and we want to combine a certain amount from each to be able to make a mixture that's got 10 moles of acid. So the way we'd set that up is we would say, so X represents our first container. That's got 2.5 moles per liter solution. And so Y represents the other container. That's 7.25 moles per liter of solution. And we're going to have a total of 10 moles of acid. So there's your equation in standard form. Now it says how many liters of the 7.25 meters per liter solution must be added to 1.3 liters of the 2.5 moles per liter solution to get 10 moles of acid in the final mixture. Now again, this is the 7.25 moles per liter. That's referring to your Y. So in other words, we want to figure out how much of that Y solution do we need if we know we're going to have 1.3 liters of the 2.5 moles per liter solution. So it's going to be 2.5 times 1.3 plus 7.25Y equals 10. Well, if I simplify this, I'm going to get 2.5 times 1.3 gives me 3.25. If I subtract 3.25 from both sides, I'm going to get, let's see, this would be 6.75. And now if I divide both sides by 7.25, I get Y equals 0.9 liters. And that would be your answer. So why don't you take a second to apply that to this last example. And so pause the video and hit play when you're ready to check your answer. Okay, so for this one we have, the equation should have been 1.5x plus 6.5y equals 15. It says how many liters of the 6.5 moles per liter, so we're trying to figure out what y is here. And when we know that we have 5 liters of the 1.5 moles per liter, so it's going to be 1.5 times 5 plus 6.5y equals 15. And when you do the work, I'll just tell you, you should have gotten 1.15 as your answer. And if you want to know what units that would be, you'd say 1.15 moles. I'm sorry, 1.15 liters. There we go. So relatively simple lesson. The key here is just knowing how to set up an equation and knowing that we refer to this as the standard form, or we can also refer to it as a linear combination. So good luck on your assignment.